Good morning, good afternoon, everybody. Pinchas, Matos, for those taking score at home. Next week, we'll kind of be on the same schedule. We have Masay in Eretz Yisrael and Matos Masay in Chutzlar. So it'll be pretty exciting. I don't know, maybe. So we have in Pinchas story of tzlafchad. And Matos, we have a story towards the end of the parsha of bnei Gad, bnei Ruvain. There's two different ways that the Torah looks at the request. The Torah has granted the request, how we speak about them. Those tzlafchad wanted something. Bnei Gad Ruvain wanted something. One of them was met with a bracha, with a new halacha, and the other got some strict criticism, pretty harsh words. So in bnos tzlafchad, they didn't get any land, but they made an appeal to Moshe. Moshe asks Hashem, Zeh hadavar. And Moshe says in words that are used only 3 times in the whole Torah, Zeh hadavar. We have this by the maan, we have this by bnos tzlafchad in Masay, and Zeh hadavar by nedarim. And the Pri Tzaddik says that hadavar is something that is a term that's used that to show that it really came from Hashem, something that Moshe never would have come up with in his whole life and never would have thought of this. So by bnos tzlafchad, halach is when the women were going to marry out of the shevet, which actually they did not, but if they would have married out of the shevet, the land would have stayed with their families. Okay, would not have moved to another shevet, would have stayed. And by nedarim, Zeh hadavar, Pri Tzaddik says, again, something that's really strange, not strange, but something Moshe would have thought of, is where a person could make something that's mutter, make it usher, and have it be like a regular mitzvah in the Torah. So if someone says, you know what, I just don't want to have ice cream on Tuesday, you make a neder. So it's like a regular mitzvah. It's like tefillin. It's like tzitzis. It's like Shabbos. So a unique, strange thing. And this is Zeh hadavar. This is what Hashem says. Moshe didn't really think about this. And the third part is the maan, where Moshe is tells the people, put the maan in a jar, limishmeres, Zeh hadavar, in Parsha B'Shalach. Well, towards the end of the parsha, in Matos, when bnei Gad Ruvain approach Moshe, Moshe gets very upset. And what's the big deal? They had a lot of animals. They just won this huge battle against Midian. They had a lot of animals. Apparently, they did a nechemes mitzvah. Hashem said to do this mitzvah. They got all the animals. Again, Moshe told them to take it. They have all these animals. They need a place to stay. So you know what? Let them stay in Chutzlar. Let them stay outside Eretz Yisrael, Ever Yarden. And Moshe gets very upset. So what's the problem? So the Kli Yakar says the problem is, first of all, that bnei Gad is ahead of bnei Ruvain and uses the word atzum od. Not that they had a lot of animals, atzum od is very powerful. What's the big deal? So what's wrong with that? First of all, the problem is that bnei Gad jumps over bnei Ruvain, and they were, was not the right thing to do, because bnei Ruvain was, the bachar, more of a prominent shevet, and when bnei Gad, with all their money and all their wealth, jumps ahead of bnei Ruvain to make this request of Moshe to stay, that was pretty bad thing to do. Pretty bad thing. This is not, you got the money from Hashem. Your confident and your self-assuredness is not because anything that you're doing. It's really from Hashem. And to now go ahead of the line, and not only to not want to go to Yisrael and spend time in the milchama, spend time in the chalukah of the aretz, but now not only that, but to jump ahead of bnei Ruvain, that was a terrible thing to do. And the Kli Yakar brings different mashals and different mishalim in different areas in Tanakh where, like a rich person invites the poor person in. Oh, you're hungry? Come on in. Wait a second. The rich person finishes eating, then he lets the poor person eat. Once I'm full, then you can have something. Or he rails on people that put in their will that they give tzedakah when they're dead. When they're alive, they're not going to give anything. Only when they're dead do they think about it. And Kli Yakar says, the point is to use your wealth when you have it to give it out. That's the point. And the Pri Tzaddik talks about that Hashem gives us money and wealth not to support our bad habits, to support our good habits. If some people, they wish they can give more tzedakah. Some particular friend of mine, a relative actually, said he wished he could have more money so he could give more tzedakah. And that's what Hashem will reward that person, to have more money, because that's what the person intends. Hashem didn't give us more money to go live here, go buy this fancy house and all these fancy things. Hashem gave more money to support tzedakah habits. That's why we have money. And this is kind of our nisayon, to use the money in the right way. So when the people, bnei Gad, bnei Ruvain, want to stay in Chutz La'aretz and take their land, two things were taking place. One is they were not believing that the money and the wealth came from Hashem. And two, they were not really going to be part of the people, be a part of the rest of Klal Yisrael. Everyone else was going to fight, and everyone was going to try to kick out the other nations of Eretz Yisrael and settle the land. These people were not going to do it. So Moshe says, no, this is not going to happen. It cannot happen. So the punishment isn't just waiting 14 years or pay a certain fine. No, the point is that every moment that your brothers and sisters are going to be in the land to try to settle it and conquer the land, you have to be with them. And the point is, to do tshuva and to kind of change your midos is not a one-time thing. And Rav Wolbe in the Ali Shor talks about Musar, talks about tshuva. It's not a one-time thing. Just like the 3 weeks. It's not just one day Shuvas Tammuz and Tisha B'Av, 2 days we think about other people. Okay, move on. No, it's a 3-week process. To really internalize some of these issues, you really have to have a process. Day one, day two. What chesed am I doing today? What avas chilul am I doing today? Am I doing something wrong? Am I treating people unfairly? Do I have different biases to different Jews? Yeah, it's a process. It really is a process. And the process is going to be bnei Gad Ruvain, to be with their brothers and sisters for the full time it takes for them to settle land, whether it takes a year, 2 years, 10 years, and it turns out it was 14 years. Then you can go back. At 14 years, when you've seen the people, when you've lived with them, when you fought with them, and you helped them settle the land, then you can now go on your side and live your lives. The third that we mentioned earlier is the maan. And again, Moshe did not think for a second that, why should I put the maan in a jar and save it? Lemishmeris. Like, why would I do that? It never occurred to Moshe that at some point the Jewish people would turn around and say, you know what, like in Yirmiyah, you know what, I can't learn Torah today. I gotta make a living. I'm too busy. I can't learn Torah. It never occurred to Moshe, because that's what happens. Like 1,000 years later, Yirmiyah says, take out that jar of maan that Moshe put, open it up, and show the people that, listen, this stayed with us 1,000 years, and the Midbar people didn't work. It came from Shemayim. So too, you do not feel that if you learn Torah, you won't make a parnasa. So the third time the Zeh Hadavar is by the maan. And the point is that Moshe never thought in his wildest dreams that people would think this. Wow, people would really think that their money and the wealth come from themselves, not Hashem. Zeh Hadavar. Hashem told us to Moshe. Moshe never thought about this. And this is kind of the lesson we have with money. Bnos tzlafchad, who really didn't have anything. They just wanted a piece of land, just something, a little bit, something, so they can have a part of Eretz Yisrael. And bnei Gad Ruvain had a lot of money, but they did not want to go to Eretz Yisrael. And I think these lessons, as far as being too self-assured, not to feel like we're dependent on Hashem, and the other lesson, to be in achdus with other people. Just this week, Joe Rogan, the famous podcast guy, he made a joke. Again, not that, of course it's a joke. He says, maybe we should solve the homeless problem, shooting them, and people freaking out. Okay, it's a joke. Some people got upset. So wherever you stand, if it's a joke, people get upset. Either way, it's hard to feel for people when you're so far away. Some guy's sitting in a studio with his cigars, making millions of dollars. It's hard to feel what a homeless person in California feels like, without a house, without a bathroom, without a place to eat. no place to call their own, it's hard to feel that. And I think this is kind of a lesson, like I said, is to feel with the people. You cannot be achdus with the people by living far away with your money. So the tikkun for this, Moshe tells them, is to spend 14 years with them in Eretz Yisrael, help them conquer the land, help them settle the land, then you can go back. Then after that point, you'll feel this connection to the people, and then you will also feel a certain dependency on Hashem. No matter how much money you have, you always have to feel dependent on Hashem. Shabbat Shalom.